I beg you. It hurts so bad." The words came out like a dying breath, trembling, fragile, and full of fear. The rancher froze where he stood, his boots sinking slightly into the damp soil beneath him. The night was quiet, too. Quiet except for the distant cry of a coyote and the sharp, ragged sound of her breathing. The moon hung low over the plains, casting silver light across her tear-streaked face. She was clutching his sleeve, her fingers cold, her nails biting into the fabric as though holding on to him was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. He looked down and saw the trap, its cruel iron jaws clamped tight around her leg. The steel glistened with blood, dark and wet in the moonlight. His stomach twisted, his throat thick with guilt. He'd set those traps himself earlier that week, meant for coyotes raiding his livestock. Never did he imagine that she'd be the one caught in it. "Don't move," he said quietly, but his voice cracked halfway through. She was already trembling, pain racking through her body with every shallow breath she took. He dropped to his knees beside her, heart hammering against his ribs. His rough hands hovered helplessly over the wound, unsure where to start. "It's gonna be all right," he whispered. Though the words sounded hollow even to him, her eyes were wide, glimmering with tears and moonlight. "Please, just make it stop," she gasped, her voice breaking with each word. Her skirt was torn, the fabric soaked in crimson. The sight made his chest ache with a deep gnawing sorrow. The wind swept through the grass around them, carrying with it the scent of iron and earth. He wished he could take her pain, trade places, anything but this. He'd seen men die in the fields, seen animals suffer in silence, but hearing her beg, like that tore something out of him. "I'm sorry," he muttered, brushing a strand of hair from her face with trembling fingers. "I never meant for this to happen." She gripped his hand, her touch weak but desperate. "Please, just end it. It hurts so bad." Her voice cracked like glass. His heart felt heavy, leaden with fear and love, and something he couldn't name. For a long moment he couldn't move, just knelt there, the knife cold in his hand, the stars burning above like distant witnesses. Finally he took a shaky breath, his voice low and broken. "It'll be quick," he said, more to himself than to her. But deep down he knew nothing about this night would ever be quick or forgotten. The prairie wind howled through the darkness, tugging at his coat as he knelt beside her. The air was sharp and dry, filled with dust and the faint copper scent of blood. Her face was pale beneath the moonlight, lips trembling, eyes glassy from pain. "Hold on," he murmured, though his voice faltered. He had to stay strong, had to be the steady one, but inside he was unraveling. He pressed his palm gently against her shoulder, trying to calm her shivering. "You're gonna be all right, I promise." Her breath came in shallow gasps, each one a fight. She looked at him, confusion and fear flickering in her eyes. "Why? Why won't it stop hurting?" she whispered, her voice raw. He couldn't answer. The trap's iron jaws were buried deep into her flesh, the metal biting through skin and muscle. Every twitch sent another wave of agony through her body. He had to act fast, but one wrong move and he could make it worse. He drew his knife from his belt, the blade gleaming faintly in the silver light. His hands shook as he studied the mechanism of the trap. He'd opened hundreds before, but never like this, never with someone he cared about caught inside. The gears were stiff, the release rusted from months of weather. He swallowed hard and looked back at her. "I need you to trust me," he said quietly. She nodded weakly, her eyes filled with tears that refused to fall. He slid the knife between the jaws, testing the pressure. It was solid, too solid. He cursed under his breath, every second feeling like an hour. "You said you'd teach me how to fix fences," she said faintly, her lips curling in a pained smile. The memory hit him like a blow. Just hours ago, she'd been laughing beside him, her hair catching the sunlight, teasing him for being too serious. Now all that warmth was replaced with blood and fear. He clenched his jaw, forcing himself to focus. "Don't talk," he muttered. "Save your strength." She winced as he pressed down, trying to loosen the spring. The metal groaned, but didn't give. Panic clawed at his chest. "Come on!" he hissed through his teeth. He shifted his weight, using every ounce of strength he had. The trap creaked again, then slightly budged. She screamed, her body arching in pain. "I'm sorry," he choked out, his own eyes stinging. "Just a little more." The sound of grinding metal filled the air, and at last the jaws loosened a fraction. He saw her hand reach toward him, trembling, clutching his sleeve again. That single gesture, trusting him even now, ignited something fierce in his heart. He wouldn't let her die here. Not tonight. He gripped the knife tighter, sweat dripping from his brow despite the cold night air. The trap's hinge refused to budge completely, its rusted edges mocking his efforts. Every sound, the rasp of metal, the ragged gasp from her lips, cut into him like a blade. He glanced at her face, pale and damp with tears. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Just do it fast." Her words froze him. His stomach churned. He couldn't tell if it was fear or heartbreak. He looked down at the cruel steel, biting into her leg, skin torn and bleeding. The sight made him nauseous, but he couldn't falter, not when she needed him. He tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. She was watching him, trusting him even as pain clouded her vision. The stars above seemed to dim, the night shrinking, until it was just the two of them, him, her and that damned trap. He ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing for another solution. He'd seen old ranchers use leverage, maybe wedge a rock to force it open, but he didn't have time. Her breathing was growing weaker, her fingers twitching against the dirt. "Stay with me," he urged, his voice trembling. "You hear me? Don't you dare give up now." He pressed the knife's edge beneath the spring, applying pressure until his muscles burned. The trap groaned but didn't give. Her cry pierced through the air, raw and desperate. His chest clenched. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so damn sorry." He moved quickly now, his instincts taking over. With one last surge of strength, he forced the knife under the hinge and slammed his boot against the lever. The metal screeched as it finally gave way, snapping open. The sudden release sent her body slack, her sobs fading into quiet whimpers. For a second, he just stared, stunned by the silence that followed. Then he dropped to his knees beside her, cutting away the torn fabric around the wound. Blood oozed freely, but the worst of the pressure was gone. He tore his bandana from his neck, wrapping it tight around her leg to stop the bleeding. "It's done," he murmured, his voice shaking. "You're free now." She opened her eyes slowly, looking up at him with a fragile smile. "You did it," she breathed. He nodded, unable to speak, his throat thick with emotion. The night around them was still, save for the whisper of the wind, a soft, haunting reminder of how close he'd come to losing her forever.